They thought I was too old to notice, too old to understand, too old to fight back. But the truth is, I wasn't too old. I was just too kind. And now, I'm done being kind. Before I tell you how my own daughter tried to lock me away and steal everything I had, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I have many more real-life stories to share. Stories of strength, betrayal, and justice. Let's begin. My name is Eleanor, and I'm 66 years old. I've lived in this house for over 40 years. This house isn't just wood and bricks, it's my memories. I raised my daughter Vanessa here. I buried my husband here. I planted every single flower in the garden with my own 2 hands. And yet, my own child tried to throw me out of it. It all started slowly. At first, I didn't even notice the change in Vanessa's tone. She and her husband, Derek, had fallen on hard times, financially. They asked if they could stay with me just for a few months while they got back on their feet. Of course, I said yes. What mother wouldn't? I moved things around to make them comfortable. Gave them the bigger bedroom, cooked meals for them, paid all the bills, thinking it was just temporary. But those few months turned into half a year, then 9 months, then a year. And with each passing month, Vanessa became colder, more distant. She no longer hugged me goodnight. She no longer helped me cook. She no longer even asked how I was feeling. She started treating me like I was, in the way. One night, I overheard her whispering to Derek. She thought I was asleep, but I had gotten up to get a glass of water. My hearing might not be what it used to be, but I heard her say it. She's slowing down, confused all the time. I think she might have early dementia. Honestly, it's not safe for her to be alone anymore. I stood frozen in the hallway. What was she talking about? I wasn't confused. I wasn't losing my memory. I was fine, just tired sometimes, like anyone else my age. But that night, something changed. I began to notice the little things. How they'd rush to grab my mail. How they'd ask strange questions about my bank account. How Vanessa offered to help pay my bills, but asked for my passwords first. It made me uneasy. So I did what I always do when I'm unsure. I trusted her, because she's my daughter. And even though I had doubts, I told myself, she loves me, she wouldn't hurt me. Oh, how wrong I was. One rainy afternoon, Vanessa came home smiling. Too much. That fake kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. She brought me tea and sat across from me like she was preparing for a serious talk. "Mom," she said sweetly, "I scheduled a doctor's appointment for you next Tuesday. Just a quick checkup. Nothing serious." I nodded, not suspecting a thing. She kissed my cheek and went upstairs, but something about her tone kept echoing in my head. It didn't sound like concern. It sounded like a performance. The next day, I overheard her again. This time on the phone. She was in the kitchen. I had just stepped out to check the mailbox, but I came back in quietly. She didn't know I was behind the door. And what I heard made my knees go weak. "I told the administrator that Mom has early-stage dementia," she said. "He was very understanding. He said they see this kind of thing all the time. I signed the preliminary papers already. All we have to do is bring her in." My hand flew to my chest. I had to sit on the floor because my legs gave out. She was talking about a nursing home, about locking me away, without my consent, behind my back. She had lied to a stranger about my mental health, my own daughter. I couldn't believe it. The woman I raised, the girl I held through every fever and heartbreak, the same girl I worked double shifts for just to put her through college. She was now plotting to get rid of me, to trap me, to take everything I owned, and she was doing it, with a smile. As if she were planning a vacation. As if I were just a piece of furniture to be removed. The betrayal cut deep. I sat there for what felt like hours, just holding my chest, rocking back and forth. praying I had heard wrong, that maybe it was all some big misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew, and that was just the beginning. That night, I barely slept. I kept tossing and turning, wondering where I went wrong as a mother. I kept asking myself, how did it come to this? I had given everything to Vanessa. All my energy, all my years, all my love. I stayed up with her when she had nightmares. I worked overtime to buy her new shoes when her classmates made fun of her. I skipped meals to make sure she had enough. And now she was planning to take everything from me, the house, my freedom, even my name. I stared at the ceiling until morning came. The air felt heavier than usual, like the walls themselves were ashamed of what was happening inside them. The next day, I decided I needed to know the full truth. I couldn't sit quietly anymore. I had to find out what they were planning, every detail. I had no one to turn to but myself, so I started to listen, carefully. When Vanessa and Derek left the house, I checked my own mail, something they had been intercepting for weeks. Sure enough, there was a letter addressed to me from a local elder care facility. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a brochure and a scheduled intake form. It had my name typed at the top, Margaret Baker. And under responsible party, Vanessa's name was signed, digitally signed. My stomach flipped. I wasn't just being paranoid. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She had actually signed me up to be placed in a care home, a locked facility. I wouldn't even be allowed to leave on my own. And the most terrifying part? I hadn't even been told. That same afternoon, while they were out again, I found a piece of paper left on the kitchen counter. It was a rough estimate of what the house could sell for. Real estate prices. Notes. A scribbled line that said, split proceeds? Half to savings, half to car loan. My house. The home where I had spent nearly my entire adult life. Where my husband had passed away. Where my daughter took her first steps. Reduced to a dollar figure and a debt solution. I knew what I had to do. I needed help. The right kind of help. So I started my plan. The next morning, I got dressed in my best coat, the one I saved for doctor appointments and church on Christmas. I brushed my hair, applied a little lipstick, and told Vanessa I was going for a walk to clear my head. She didn't even look up from her phone. I stepped out, walked 3 blocks to the bus stop, and took the first bus downtown. My hands trembled the entire ride. My first stop was at the local bank. I walked straight to the branch manager, a kind woman named Rachel, who had helped me years ago when I opened a joint college account for Vanessa. "Rachel," I said softly, "I think someone has been accessing my accounts without permission." She raised her eyebrows and motioned for me to come into her office. Over the next hour, she went through months of my bank statements. We discovered withdrawal after withdrawal I had no memory of making. "Looks like these transfers were made online," she said gently, "linked to this IP address." I had no idea what an IP address was, but I nodded. Rachel printed everything for me. Statements, logs, suspicious activity records. She even highlighted the transfers made late at night. Times when I was always asleep. One transfer was for Fund 200, another for $875 over $8,000, had vanished. I didn't even know I had that much saved. I'd been so focused on surviving, I hadn't paid attention to the balances. I thanked Rachel with tears in my eyes. "You don't know what this means to me?" "No, Miss Baker," she said, touching my hand gently. "You don't deserve this. Take these documents. You might want to speak to a lawyer." My second stop was at the General Hospital, where I asked to see Dr. Morales, a kind geriatric specialist I had met once at a local health fair. "Dr. Morales," I told him, "I'd like a full evaluation. Cognitive, psychological, everything." He looked surprised. "Is there something specific that's worrying you?" "Yes," I said. "My daughter is telling people I have dementia. She's using it as a reason to take control of my life." He frowned deeply and said, "That's very serious. We'll run every test we need to." For the next 3 hours, I went through memory tests, drawing exercises, verbal assessments. Logic games. You name it. At the end, Dr. Morales sat across from me with a small, proud smile. "Ms. Baker," he said, "you're sharp as a tack. In fact, you scored above average for your age group." Relief flooded me. "Thank you, doctor," I said. "I needed this more than you know." He printed the report and handed it to me. "You take this wherever you go," he said. "And if anyone ever questions your mind again, you show them this." My final stop was the office of a well-known attorney in the city. His name? Mr. Lawson. He was in his late 50s with silver hair, glasses, and a voice like a steady mountain. "I've heard of you, Miss Baker," he said after I explained what was happening. "Your daughter and her husband may be walking into very serious legal trouble." "Good," I said, because I'm tired of being silent. Mr. Lawson sat back in his chair, reviewing all the documents I had gathered, the forged bank authorizations, the fraudulent intake forms, the voice message, and Dr. Morales's medical evaluation. He looked up at me with calm authority. "Miss Baker," he said, "this is a textbook case of family exploitation, financial abuse, psychological manipulation, even attempted property theft. And I'll be honest with you, this doesn't just justify civil action. This could go criminal." I took a deep breath. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want justice. I want them to understand that they crossed a line they can never uncross." I gave them everything, and they tried to erase me. His eyes softened, but his tone stayed steady. "Then we'll do exactly that. We'll press forward with strength, but legally, with dignity. Because this kind of abuse happens far too often, and most people are too afraid to fight it." We spent the next few hours going over every document, every message, every suspicious bank withdrawal. Mr. Lawson's team started drafting a civil lawsuit for fraud, elder abuse, and falsification of documents. We also began working on criminal charges, including conspiracy and theft by deception. I signed the paperwork with a trembling hand, not from fear, from resolve. I was taking my power back. By the time I left the attorney's office, the sun was starting to go down. I had spent the entire day gathering the broken pieces of my life and putting them back together, but this time, in the right shape. As I walked toward the bus stop, I caught my reflection in a store window. I didn't see a defeated old woman anymore. I saw someone who had decided her story wasn't over. I saw someone who finally realized she deserved better, not just from her daughter, but from herself. Back at home, the house was quiet. Vanessa and Derek were in the living room, watching some reality show. I walked in, calm as ever. "Hi, Mom," Vanessa said without looking up. "Get your walk in?" I smiled faintly. "Oh yes, I got everything done that I needed to." I sat in my old armchair, the one they kept trying to get rid of because it clashed with the decor. I looked at them both and said, "We'll be having guests tomorrow. I hope you're both here when they arrive." Derek muted the TV. "Guests?" "Yep," I said. "People who can help us figure out some important things about our family's future." They both looked confused, but I didn't offer any more explanation. Let them stew. That night, we ate dinner in silence. The tension was thick, but they didn't ask any more questions. I barely touched my food. My appetite had been eaten up by anticipation. When I finally went to bed, I lay awake. But I wasn't restless. I was at peace. For the first time in months, I felt like my life belonged to me again. The next morning, right at 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," I said, standing quickly before either of them could react. At the door stood Attorney Lawson, 2 police officers, and a public notary. "Good morning, Miss Baker," Mr. Lawson said with a respectful nod. "We're here to execute the actions we discussed." Vanessa and Derek appeared behind me, their faces twisted in confusion. "Mom, who are these people?" she asked, her voice tightening. I turned around slowly, and for the first time in a long time, my voice didn't tremble. "Take a seat, both of you," I said firmly. "It's time we cleared the air." They hesitated, but the sight of the officers made them obey. Mr. Lawson stepped forward and opened a thick folder. "Miss Vanessa Baker and Mr. Derek Miles," he began. "We are here on behalf of Margaret Baker to inform you that we have gathered substantial evidence indicating that both of you participated in a calculated attempt to commit elder fraud, falsify legal documents, and unlawfully transfer property." Vanessa blinked rapidly. "Wait, what? What are you talking about?" I didn't respond. I just pulled out my phone. "You remember that voice message, Vanessa?" I asked quietly. "The one you accidentally sent me?" I tapped play, and then her voice filled the room. "Derek, I can't take having my mother here anymore. She's getting into everything. I just want the house in peace of mind." Her face turned pale as snow. Derek's mouth dropped open. "I didn't mean it like that," Vanessa said quickly, trying to wave it off. "It was just a bad moment." I paused the audio. "Shall I play the part where you talk about the bribes and the forged documents?" She didn't respond. Mr. Lawson continued, "These are your bank records, showing unauthorized withdrawals totaling over $8,000. He slid the documents across the table. "And these," he said, placing another set of papers down, "are the forged documents you submitted to transfer the property. Title." Then he placed my mental health evaluation on top. "This is a signed report from Dr. Morales stating that Miss Baker is mentally sound and capable of managing her affairs." Derek stood abruptly. "This is a setup. She's manipulating all of you." "Funny," I said. "That's what you've been doing to me for months." The officers didn't move yet. They were waiting on me. "Miss Baker," one asked, "would you like to proceed with charges today?" I looked at my daughter, at the girl I raised with lullabies and birthday cakes, at the woman who plotted behind my back to erase my identity. "Yes," I said calmly. "I would." And just like that, everything shifted. They had underestimated me, misread me, thought I was weak. But they forgot. I raised myself before I ever raised them. I wasn't going to let them finish writing the end of my story. As the police officers stepped forward, I watched Vanessa's hands shake like leaves in a storm. Her eyes darted from me to the attorney to the officers, then back to me. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. "Mom, you can't be serious," she finally whispered. "You're calling the police on your own daughter?" I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply nodded. "Yes, I'm calling justice." One of the officers gently but firmly pulled Vanessa to her feet. Derek's face twisted in disbelief as he backed away, but the second officer stepped in and took his arm. "This is insane," Derek snapped. "You've poisoned her against us." Mr. Lawson calmly flipped open another file. "You forged legal documents. You manipulated medical records. You accessed her finances without consent. That's not a misunderstanding, Mr. Miles. That's a felony." Vanessa burst into tears. Not soft sobs, full, uncontrollable wails. "I'm sorry. We just didn't know what to do." We were drowning in bills. "We panicked. You planned this for months," I said coldly. "That's not panic. That's betrayal with a strategy." The notary stood silently, recording the entire event, documenting every statement, every signature, every admission. Derek, sensing the inevitable, turned to me one last time. "You think you've won? You've destroyed your own family." I met his glare with something colder than rage. Peace. "You did that all by yourself." After they were taken away, the silence in the house was surreal. No more slamming doors. No more judgmental glances. No more whispered phone calls I wasn't supposed to hear. Just peace. I sat down in my chair, the same one they said was ugly and should be tossed. I ran my hand across the worn armrest, remembering how I used to sit there watching Grace, now Vanessa, open her birthday presents, how I rocked her there when she had the flu, how I cried in that very chair when her father passed away. And then I cried again. But this time, the tears weren't from sadness, they were from release. But I learned quickly that victory doesn't always bring quiet. The next day, the harassment began. It started with a knock on the door. A young woman with a clipboard claimed to be from a local senior services organization. She said they'd received reports that I was unstable, forgetful, and possibly a danger to myself. I asked for her ID. She didn't have one. When I insisted, she left, but not before warning me that someone would be checking in soon. Then came the phone calls. First once a day, then 3, then 10. You don't deserve to be a mother. You're a heartless woman. No wonder your daughter left you. Most were anonymous. Some used fake names. A few sounded familiar, almost like Vanessa disguising her voice. The worst call came at 3:12 a.m. I hope you die alone, you miserable old witch. I sat up in bed that night and stared at the ceiling for hours. The house was dark and silent, but I could feel the weight of every hateful word pressing down on me. Then came the letters. Handwritten, typed, some sloppy, others neat. No return addresses. You're a disgrace. You deserve to rot. You poisoned your family and now you're crying victim? Each one felt like a knife. My neighbor Linda, a kind widow who lived down the street, brought me soup one evening and confessed something. I saw a post online. Vanessa wrote it. Said you were losing your mind. That you made everything up. People are commenting, Margaret. Ugly things. She showed me the Facebook post. My photo, one I didn't know existed, had been posted in a local group. Caption. This is my mother. She's senile and dangerous. She pressed charges against me for no reason. If you see her wandering around, please call us. She's not well. I was stunned. There, in the comments, were dozens of strangers calling me cruel names. Some offered prayers. Others offered places to send me for care. One even wrote, she should be locked away before she hurts someone. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of cold tea. Staring at my hands, I began to question everything. Was I wrong? Had I overreacted? Had I really destroyed my own family? The guilt clawed at me, louder than any insult. But then, I remembered something. Something my own mother had once told me years ago, when Vanessa was just a baby. Margaret, love never asks you to disappear. It doesn't silence you or steal from you or shame you. Love never makes you small so someone else can feel big. And in that moment, I found clarity. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't senile. I was a woman who had finally stood up, and they didn't hate me because I lied. They hated me because I told the truth. The next morning, I called Mr. Lawson. Attorney, they're trying to ruin my name. I know, he said, and we're going to respond. Legally and publicly, he filed a restraining order. He sent cease and desist letters. And then he made a bold move. He contacted the local news. If they want to tell their side, let's tell yours, he said. That afternoon, a reporter sat in my living room listening to my story, recording my pain, and promising to help restore the truth. The article ran the next Sunday. The headline read, She Fought Back. 66-year-old woman exposes family fraud and wins. And just like that, the tide began to turn. The attorney continued to expose every disgusting detail of their carefully crafted deception. His voice remained calm, but each new revelation hit harder than the last. We also have solid proof that you, Grace, and Richard contacted the director of St. Francis Assisted Living Facility and paid a $1,200 registration fee, he said, placing another document on the table. This payment was made to secure a spot for Ms. Margaret, without her knowledge or her consent. The air in the room thickened. I could see Grace physically trembling. You plan to take her there this coming Tuesday, he continued, flipping to a highlighted section, under the pretense of a routine medical checkup. But in reality, your intention was to commit her against her will and seize full legal guardianship of her and her estate. It was for your own good, Mom. Grace burst out, clearly desperate. Her voice cracked with panic. You were getting so forgetful. You were getting confused more and more, that was it. That was the final straw. Enough with the lies. I erupted, no longer able to contain the storm that had been building inside me. The room fell into an immediate, stunned silence. I have never been confused, I continued, pointing my finger at her like a gavel of truth. You invented those stories to rationalize your manipulation. I still manage my finances, cook my own meals, maintain my home, and even, God help me, still help you financially when you claim to be in a bind. And this is how you repay me? I stepped forward and locked eyes with her. My voice lowered, not in volume but in intensity. Do you know what hurts the most, Grace? It's not just that you tried to steal my house. It's not just that you were ready to commit me to a home like a burden. It's that for all these months, while I looked you in the eyes and said I loved you, while I held your hand and called you my sweet girl, you were calculating how much you'd gain from my death. Grace broke completely. Her sobs echoed around the room like shattered glass. I'm sorry, Mom. I really am. We were desperate for money. We have debts, and everything was closing in on us. We didn't know what else to do. Desperation doesn't justify betrayal, I said firmly, shaking my head. If you had asked me, truly asked me, I would have helped you. I have always helped you. But instead of trusting my love, you chose theft, lies, and cruelty. The officer stepped forward. A pair of silver handcuffs glinting in the light. Ms. Baker, he asked gently, do you wish to proceed with formal arrests? My gaze moved from Grace's tear-streaked face to the cold, angry scowl of Richard. And in that moment, I felt it. Not hatred, not revenge. Just clarity. Yes, officer, I said with unwavering resolve. Please proceed with the arrests. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made. Watching my own daughter, my only child, being handcuffed in my living room was like tearing open an old wound I didn't know I still had. But strangely, it was also the moment I took back my power. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet again. Mom, please, Grace screamed as the officer led her to the door. You can't do this to me. I'm your daughter. I'm the only one you have left in this world. Her voice cracked into a sob. But I couldn't be moved. Not anymore. You were the one who decided I didn't matter, I replied coldly. You chose this. You're just now facing the consequences. Richard, still defiant, glared at me with eyes full of venom. As he passed me, he leaned in close and hissed, This isn't over, you crazy old woman. You're going to regret this. His words didn't frighten me. They solidified that I had made the right call. Once they were gone, silence filled the house like a healing balm. It was the first time in months that I could breathe deeply, without fear or pretense. I walked through my kitchen, my living room, my garden, and for the first time in ages, I felt safe in my own home. But that peace didn't last long. The very next day, the retaliation began. Grace launched a smear campaign on social media. She created fake Facebook profiles and posted lies about me in local community groups. My mother has senile dementia and falsely accused us of theft, one post read. She's so confused she doesn't even recognize her own family. If you see her wandering alone, please call me. She uploaded photos of me, taken without my knowledge, where I looked tired, distracted, or disoriented. The images were edited to make me look unstable. People began commenting with concern and pity. Poor woman. She clearly needs help. How tragic. This is why families should stick together and get professional support. Even my lifelong neighbor, Ms. Rose, knocked on my door, her face full of worry. Margaret, honey. Are you all right? I saw something online. Something about you and Grace. I had to sit her down and show her the evidence. I played her the audio, showed her the legal documents, the bank statements, everything. Only then did she believe me. Only then did she break down in tears, hugging me tightly, ashamed that she had even doubted me. But that was just the beginning. Phone calls started coming, dozens a day. At all hours, unknown numbers. Sometimes they screamed, sometimes they whispered. You're a horrible mother, one voice growled at 3 a.m. You'll die alone. And you deserve it. People I didn't even know started coming to my house, pretending to be social workers, offering suspicious security systems, or claiming to be distant relatives just checking on me. It was coordinated, malicious, and clearly designed to push me over the edge. Attorney Ford warned me. Ms. Baker, he said, they're trying to paint you as mentally unstable to damage your credibility in court. It's a dirty trick but a common one when criminals get desperate. The worst part? The letters. Anonymous, hateful letters began showing up in my mailbox. You're a failed mother. No wonder your daughter hates you. You gave your whole life to a daughter who'd rather see you dead. Think about what that says about you. One letter read, You worked your whole life like a servant. And for what? For your daughter to abandon you like trash. You're a fool. Those words stung like acid. One night, I sat on the kitchen floor, right where I had listened to the audio that had shattered my world. I sobbed until my bones ached. I questioned everything. Had I truly been a good mother? Was I somehow to blame? For the first time, I thought about calling the attorney and dropping the charges. Maybe peace was better than justice. Maybe I could fix things with grace. But then I remembered something buried deep in a small wooden chest in my bedroom. It was a letter. A letter my mother had written to me before she passed. Grace was only 8 when I received it. My dearest Margaret, the letter began. If you're reading this, then I'm no longer with you. But I want you to remember something. You are a strong, good woman. You're a mother who loves deeply. But don't ever let anyone, including your own children, make you feel small or unworthy. Her words were shaky, but her message was powerful. True love doesn't manipulate. It doesn't steal. It doesn't shame you into silence. You deserve dignity. You deserve peace. You deserve a life filled with respect. And if someone, even your daughter, can't give you that, then they don't deserve to be in your life. I closed my eyes and cried all over again. But this time, not from pain, from strength. The next morning, I called Attorney Ford. My voice was clear and strong. Proceed with every single charge. We're not dropping anything. Let's take this to the end. He paused, then said, That's good to hear, Ms. Baker, because I've just received a call from their legal team. Grace and Richard are begging for an out-of-court settlement. What are they offering? I asked. Full repayment of the money stolen, $15,000 in damages, and an agreement to never contact you again. I thought about it, then said, I'll accept it, but only under one condition. I want them to sign a written confession admitting I am of sound mind. And I want that confession made public. In every place they tried to ruin my name, the attorney chuckled. Savvy, Ms. Baker. That will shut down their campaign completely. And that's exactly what we did. The confession was posted everywhere Grace had lied. They admitted they had fabricated documents, forged signatures, and falsely accused me of mental instability. That day, I didn't just win back my house and my money. I won back my name, my voice, and my freedom. I was no longer someone's helpless mother. I was Margaret Baker, and I had finally taken my life back. We cannot have employees involved in family fraud scandals, her boss told her plainly. Our company has a reputation to uphold, and keeping you in a leadership position after this would send the wrong message. Although he didn't fire her on the spot, the damage was done. Grace was demoted to a much lower position with fewer responsibilities and zero chance of promotion in the foreseeable future. She had become an embarrassment to her workplace, a cautionary tale whispered about in corridors. Richard didn't escape the fallout either. Word of his involvement had spread, and soon his own employer confronted him. If you're capable of conspiring against your own mother-in-law, his supervisor said coldly, how can we ever trust you with client information or company finances? His file was flagged, his promotion was rescinded, and his future at the company became unstable overnight. But the worst part for them wasn't legal or financial, it was social. Their reputations were destroyed. People who once smiled at them now crossed the street to avoid them. Family members stopped calling. Friends stopped inviting them to gatherings. Even at the grocery store, they weren't safe from judgmental stares and whispered gossip. Richard's own sister cut ties completely after learning what he had done. You conspired against an old woman who loved you like a son, she shouted at him during a family dinner-turned-confrontation. You're no brother of mine. The words hit harder than any legal sentence. Grace's social circle vanished too. Mothers at the school where she once volunteered avoided her like a plague. If she can betray her own mother, what would she do to her friends? They'd mutter. She became a symbol of betrayal in the neighborhood, a warning to others. Even cashiers who had known her for years now offered tight smiles and quick glances. And through all of this, I never raised my voice, never made threats, never broke the law. Everything I did was within my rights and backed by evidence. I didn't need to become like them to win. The truth was enough. 6 months after the day I first heard that life-shattering voicemail, I bumped into Grace again. It was at the mall just near the bookstore. She looked like a shadow of her former self, pale, exhausted, and far older than 35. Her eyes locked onto mine, and she walked toward me with hesitating steps. "Mom." Her voice cracked. Please forgive me, I didn't flinch." "Grace," I said calmly, "what you did can't be erased with tears." "We lost everything," she continued, wiping her eyes. "Our credit is ruined. Richard lost his promotion. I had to take a job with half the pay. Isn't that punishment enough?" I took a deep breath and looked her in the eyes. "Grace, I didn't punish you, life did. You chose to betray your own mother. I chose to protect myself. The rest is just consequences. We're family," she pleaded. "You can't just turn your back on your only daughter." And that's when I said the hardest, truest words I've ever spoken. "Blood doesn't give you permission to hurt me." "Blood doesn't mean you own me. Blood is not a license to steal, lie, and destroy." I paused, watching her crumble in front of me. "For 35 years, I was your rock, your refuge. For 3 months, you plotted my funeral while calling it love. And now you want me to pretend it never happened?" She sobbed. "So, you won't forgive me?" I softened my tone just a little. "I already forgave you, Grace. But forgiveness isn't a free pass. It's for my healing, not your benefit. I forgive you so I can sleep at night, not so you can walk back into my life like nothing happened. I wish you peace, but my door is closed." And I walked away. No drama, no shouting, just quiet strength. Back at my apartment, I sipped tea with Nora and shared what had happened. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "You didn't just survive, Margaret. You rose. A year passed. I turned 67 and felt more alive than I ever had in my youth. My apartment, though modest, was mine, full of color, light, and laughter. Every morning I brewed coffee, sat on my balcony, and breathed in peace like it was oxygen. I was no longer living for someone else's comfort. I was finally living for myself. "Good morning, Margaret." Nora called from below. "Good morning." I smiled. "Ready for dance class?" Who would have thought? Me at 67 taking up dance classes. But I had learned it's never too late to try something new. Never too late to rediscover yourself. My paintings now lined my walls, some even sold at local art fairs. I wasn't famous, but I was fulfilled. At the Golden Hope Foundation, I volunteered with seniors who'd suffered similar betrayals. "You give me hope," Miss Carmen once told me, holding my hand. "You showed me it's not too late to start again." My days were full of purpose. My past hadn't broken me. It had built me. As for Grace and Richard, they struggled. I heard they'd moved to a tiny apartment and were drowning in debt. They fought constantly, blaming each other for everything. But I felt no joy in that, only a quiet, bittersweet sadness. 6 months ago, I received a letter from Grace. I didn't open it right away. It sat on my desk for 3 days. Finally, I read it with Nora by my side. "Dear Mom," it began. "I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I need you to know I regret everything. I understand now. I was wrong. So very wrong. The letter was long, full of therapy terms, apologies, and realizations. I used you, Mom," she wrote. "I treated you like a bank account, not a person. I'm sorry I saw your love as something to exploit." Her final line shattered me. I lost the best mother in the world because I was too selfish to see her heart. I sat there in silence for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Grace, I forgive you. Not for your sake, but for mine. I'm glad you're seeking help. I hope you find peace. But my life is now peaceful without you. I wish you healing. From afar. Signed, Mom." And that was enough. These days, I spend my time painting, dancing, and helping others. I often remind the women I mentor. Forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about freeing yourself from pain and walking away with your head held high.